Surprise! That's right. Inflation is coming down. So the ABS dropped a report yesterday, being the 29th of March 2023, that the CPI is now down to 6.8% for the 12 months to February, which is good because it's lower from the 7.4% from the 12 months into January, and it's down from the 7.8% that we got into the December quarterly report. So that's really good. Inflation's coming down. But it really does help to see what lies beneath the iceberg before we start popping the champagne. So here's a breakdown of the CPI movements in various categories. Now, the one you really need to look at here is electricity. Now, for February 22 to February 23, so measuring that change, electricity is up 17.2%. Nearly 1/5 of our inflation is because we are paying higher electricity prices. That is just insane. And the thing that makes that insane, it's not because Russia invaded the Ukraine, which is what the government likes to use. It's because of government policy that we have such high electricity prices, because the people who are now in charge of Australia have drunk the Eco-Loon Kool-Aid. And it's all about decarbonising our whole economy, because you see, coal-fired power stations are evil, and so is gas. And we can never have nuclear, but we can have nuclear subs, of course. Anyway, that's because of government policies, particularly going into the renewable space. We've just seen our prices of electricity just go up and up and up. And I'll tell you something right now, everybody, anyone listening to this now and watching this, they're going to keep going up. It's going to happen. Now, keep going and look at the particular data. Look at the other items that increased a lot in the period. Have a look at bread and cereal products. They went up 12.5%. I wonder why. Maybe it's because you need a bit of electricity to help, make bread and process cereal products. Look at dairy and other related products. Ooh, that went up 14.3%. Again, you need a lot of electricity into those inputs. You add those three together, plus the gain in the electricity prices, and we're already 44% of the CPI index on those three alone. Now have a look at new dwelling purchases by owner-occupiers. It went up 13%. What that means is the cost of new buildings, be it apartments and homes and flats, they've increased. Because why have they increased? Because the cost of building has increased, because the cost of concrete's gone up, because it requires more energy to make said concrete, and it requires more energy to get said Rio rod, and then the labour and all these other pieces. That's just going to keep fueling inflation. So the tricky point now is for the RBA is they get to meet next Tuesday to decide if we should have an 11th interest rate hike. Now, we're currently sitting at a cash rate of 3.6%. Now, given inflation does look like it's coming down, remember, that's the headline, and that's what, the talking heads in government like. Oh, the headline's coming down. Doesn't matter that electricity's up 17%, but that's what they look like. And maybe the Reserve Bank on that basis might actually just pause and say, oh, let's have a wait. The next quarterly CPI report, the bigger report's not due out until about, I think, the 26th of April. Then they can look at that. And then, of course, they've got another meeting, and then in May that they could reconsider, our interest rate position. Keeping also in mind the backdrop of US banks at the moment. We've had a few in the headlines. Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, all go under. There's smaller banks, bank runs. Of course, the big four in America, mainly JP Morgan, Bank of America, Citigroup, and probably Wells Fargo, just like our big four have just been mopping, all these smaller guys in. But that's just the general sort of talk on maybe a pause is now warranted because we've worked really hard racking up rates 10 times in a row, and maybe we shouldn't just go an 11th time and all that sort of thing. But regardless of what the policy guys do, at the end of the day, it's going to boil down to electricity, as you can see in this particular data, 17.2%. When it was from January 22 to January 23, it was 16.8%. So we can see the growth in electricity prices is very, very high. It's very, very sticky. And what is going to make them come down? Nothing. They're going to keep going up because government policy in this country, whether you're in the state of Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, along with the federal government we have, is ensuring you will pay more for your electricity. Electricity is becoming more and more of a luxury item in this country every day of the week. We're just lucky we don't freeze in this damn country, in the sense that we don't have snowstorms and get blizzards and things like North America and Northern Europe gets. Mind you, you live down south in Melbourne, it's not a pleasant time to be there in winter. And it's getting to the point where normal Australians will not turn on the air conditioners in summer and the heaters in winter because they just can't afford it. And what do state governments do? Oh, we'll give you a rebate to help offset the power increases. Just stop doing your renewable bullshit. It doesn't work. Stop and think, everybody, just for a moment. Solar is very inefficient at night. Doesn't work. Wind, if it doesn't blow or it's blowing too fast, the wind turbines can't be used. And yet that's where we're throwing our lot into, on a energy system that is purely based on the condition of the weather and whether or not there's enough damn sunlight. It is insane. And they make us think we're saving on emissions. Nobody talks about what resources are needed, the amount of steel and concrete and petrochemicals and then rare earths that go into making said renewables, let alone then having to construct brand new transmission lines to move it. Because, of course, all these wind farms and solar farms, they're not in front of, Surfers Paradise Beach, are they? They're out in Whoop Whoop because we rather go and screw the regional person and screw their, lifestyles up and their regional settings. And we don't worry about the ecology out there. Who gives a rat's ass about koalas? Hey, solar panels. We got to do it. And yet, from our military point of view, we've signed up to AUKUS. So that's between the Yanks, the Poms and us. And guess what? Finally, this is one smart thing we're going to do. We're going to buy nuclear-powered submarines. We're going to start off buying them from the Americans, and then down the track, we're going to build a brand new design in partnership with the Poms. Great. Awesome. That's great, because that's proper 21st century technology. But for some reason, we still will not make that one leap to go to civilian nuclear power. And if you really, really believe in CO2, incidentally, that's the stuff I'm exhaling every time I take a breath, and it's 40 times more CO2 when I exhale than what I take in, and that goes for every damn mammal on the planet. If that's something that's really a problem, we should be embracing nuclear straight away, because it's the only way that, if you believe that we've got a problem with CO2 emissions, which we haven't, it's 400 parts per million. When T-Rex walked around this planet around about 65 million years ago in the late Cretaceous period, the atmospheric CO2 was 5 times what it was today. That's 2,000 parts per million. Those big bloody pterodactyl things, the big flying lizards, the only reason they could fly was because the atmosphere was thicker, because we had more CO2 in it. I mean, nature has had this going around in terms of the geological time frame for millions and millions of years. I mean, when the last ice age was around, the sea levels, like where I live, were 150 metres lower than what they are today. That was just something in the last 13,000 years. I mean, you look at our lifespan, we're lucky to live 100 years. We are literally a pimple on the arse of an ant, and yet we are suffering a religion that thinks we got to do this stuff, and we're screwing ourselves. We are absolutely screwing ourselves, and it's in the data, and it's right there now. And electricity flows through everything. You stop and think about it. What do you need? If you want to bake a cake, you need electricity to run the blender. Then, put the power on into the oven so you can bake it. You want to keep your beer cold, you need electricity to keep the fridge going. everything has a multiple that flows through the economy. And if we continue to go on this insane path of going into renewable energy sources, which, let's be perfectly honest, they are not reliable. As I said, solar is surprisingly inefficient at night time. And if it's no wind or the wind's too much, that's what people forget. If you don't believe me, look up Bett's law. That's to do with the amount of energy any given wind turbine can actually make. Oddly enough, with friction and everything else, it's only 57% of when the wind comes through. And that's what we want to build our future on. But then in military-wise, we're going to get nuclear-powered subs, which is great, but we won't have civilian nuclear power plants because some of us are worried about where the nuclear waste will go. Pardon? Nuclear waste, we can buy modular designs. Rolls-Royce make them. They're like a big container and they just run. And you can just plug them in an existing site. They run for 30 years. You ring them up and go, mate, that one's about to run out. Come and give us a new one. And they just fully self-contain. These are the small modular nuclear power plants. There's the future right there. But no, we don't do that. We want to go back to, 15th century tech when we had windmills that were primarily there to, move water from one level up to another. I mean, we don't even build dams in this damn country because we're worried about hurting something in the environment. Some bloody frog will be disadvantaged. Yet we'll put wind farms everywhere and they become death totems to flying birds and stuff. Hey, and bats. We don't give a rat's ass about that. I mean, we've got to wake up to ourselves. Now, I know this is normally not the sort of discussion I like to have. I'm a stockbroker. I want to talk about markets and where things are. But equally, what we're seeing here right now is direct consequence of stupid government policy. Now, I'm saying that not just because it's Labor in government today. They're Jedi Knights at it. The Liberals are just as bad. They went on with the same lot of bullshit. They all drink the same Kool-Aid. Why? I do not know. I mean, you would think, how did the human race get to this level where we then want to put our lot into a technology that is just a joke? It does not work. It's like thinking we're going to replace all the motor vehicles with EVs. There's not enough damn known minerals to go and do all that. We couldn't do it, even if we tried. Anyway, we're not going to fix things unless we, address things. And seeing the price of electricity going up, recorded by the Bureau of Stats, at 17%, when in the media you see it all the time. Be prepared for 30, 40, 50%, price rises on your power bill. It's going to be going like that, and for as much as you can see. And nobody wants to talk about it because nobody cares about the cost of living. They don't. It's just, that's because their cost of living's fine. You are the political elite. You're good as gold. You get a big paycheck. You work in the public service. You're guaranteed, just like when COVID hit. Didn't matter that you ran your own business. You got shut down by the government. You're a public servant. Hey, the only time they were worried about when the private sector went out was they were just surprised the little coffee shop they used to go visit in Queen Street, Brisbane, wasn't operating anymore. Oh, what happened there? I mean, we have this massive disconnect, and it's just got to change. And this is not about trying to direct it to the people who are on the left, the right, or in the centre. They're all dumb. They've all done the same thing. I don't know why, but they have. So, if anything, this is more of a call to everybody. Wake up. Get in touch with your local member. Get in touch with your local federal member and start saying 17%, increase in electricity, which is essentially 1/5 of why we have an inflation problem. Remember, it's still around 6.8%. We've still got interest rates going up. Do you honestly think the interest rates are going to come down anytime soon? If anything, there'll be a pause for a spell, and they'll probably keep going up a bit more because you're not going to be able to suppress this. It's up to everyone else to do it. I can't do this battle on my own. I can just be one person who's trying to make a living, trying to make good returns to my clients and do everything else, but I'm here to point it out. And you've got to be able to point it out, and we've got to have an adult discussion about this sort of stuff. These people that go on about, we've got to save the planet, we've got to do all this other crap, they're just full of shit. They know nothing of science and how things work. Because if you truly believe CO2 was the problem, we would be building nuclear power plants every day of the week. But no, we just get rid of our base load power and we're basically decarbonising our country. Here's the government, with their safety mechanism, which is essentially a smarter name for the old cap and trade, which, for those who don't know, cap and trade essentially means you cap your success and it's trading prosperity for poverty, because that's what you're essentially doing to, the big emitters by saying, well, if you emit too much, there's going to be a penalty there. Well, they'll go, well, guess what? If we're emitting too much, what we might do? We might just stop emitting here, beauty, and we'll just go elsewhere. And then what happens then? I mean, this notion, Australia, big Australia, 26.5 million people of us, we're like 1% of global emissions. We're a nothing burger. We're a rounding error. China pushes out what we do in a year inside 6 weeks. China is building 100 brand new coal-fired power stations. They're putting on 2 a week. They're buying our coal, of course. And then we've got the Greens who go, oh no, we can't have coal, we can't have any of this. We can, it's only one of our biggest cash, exports that actually helps pay for our healthcare and the NDIS and anything else that, we're all using, those crucial services and that sort of stuff. I mean, we are a lucky country from the point of view that we have all these endowed resources that are there to be used. Nature's battery is a piece of effing coal. That's what it was. That's what nature said we're going to do. And we're smart to use it. And we're getting better with the technologies that we can remove emissions. You only got to drive a modern car knowing that with catalytic converters and how exhaust systems work and everything else, what gets massively reduced that keeps going out in the atmosphere at any given day and that sort of thing. Please, we're killing ourselves. And yes, we've got real economic problems here at the moment. Inflation is very, very real, and this could spike. Things could get out of control. But I'm telling you now, people, if the price of electricity stays where it is and keeps moving on a multiple like that, and it's probably going to get closer to 25%, that means in 4 years it'll double. If it keeps going at that rate, you know where it's going to get to. And that, just like I said, spreads everywhere through the economy. And it really won't matter who you are, you're going to feel it. So, look, it's a big rant. I've gone off the reservation a little bit. I'm sorry if that upsets a few of my listeners and that sort of thing. But sometimes you just got to have an honest conversation with people and just get it out there. And hopefully people talk about it. And, like I said, talk to your local member. Talk to your federal member. Write to them. That's representative democracy. Not like this voice bullshit that, we got a prime minister who wants to divide us by race. And that's the biggest distraction we've got going on this year. Use your representative democracy to say to the people that are in the parliament, what you're doing isn't working. Stop. Rethink. Get on and start doing something else that will actually bring down these prices, because you're killing us. That's what's happening. And, the lower class is destroyed, and the middle class is just gasping on like this, and the upper elites are just, well, can't they drive EVs? I mean, we're just losing it. Anyway, look, a lot of fun. It's been a while since I've had a chat. And, market-wise, we got the inflation globally. It looks like it might be starting to, even pause in the United States with where the US Fed's at, mainly because of their little banking crisis that they've basically started. So we just got to still keep a good eye on things. But again, long video. My apologies it goes this long. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button. Please make a comment and feel free to pass it on. But until next time, take it easy and we'll see you then.